Hawaii, California, Florida, Las Vegas. How'd you like to escape all this flooding and head to one of those popular vacation spots? Turns out a lot of people are doing just that, which is fine, except for one thing. Scott joins us now. And Scott, you found out people are doing that, but they're doing it with taxpayer dollars.
It appears that way, Jennifer. I got this rather impressive stack of records from the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Now, they represent every ATM withdrawal by Kentucky's version of welfare, the Kentucky Temporary Assistance Payments, or KTAP, over the past year. And what I found is a lot of people needing help from the state are spending that money in some pretty exotic places. That story in tonight's Local 6 Extra.
You ever been to Hawaii to check out the surf? How about trying your luck at a Las Vegas casino? Or maybe taking in a show at SeaWorld. Well, you may have never visited any of those attractions, but we know one thing. Your tax dollars have. According to these records of ATM withdrawals dating back to March of 2010, recipients of the Kentucky Temporary Assistance Program, or KTAP, have been to some pretty cool, or should I say warm, even tropical locations. Like the 2 withdrawals for $181 in Honolulu. The 11 withdrawals in Miami totaling $1,538.
Welcome.
We found dozens in Florida, but these 3 for $369 at an address in Orlando really stick out, since they are at the same address as SeaWorld. Or how about this $160 withdrawal on St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands? We found withdrawals in most of the 50 states. But we also found some suspicious transactions in or near Kentucky. For instance, 6 withdrawals at Churchill Downs for $280. Turfway Park in Florence did even better with 11 transactions for $1,753. But the biggest winner was a bit north in Evansville, Indiana at 450 Riverside Drive, which just happens to be the same address as Casino Aztar. In the past year, KTAP recipients have withdrawn money 52 times there, totaling $3,556. We took that information to Kentucky State Legislator Brent Hausman.
This document right here says that there are abuses of the system.
Representative Hausman calls these withdrawals evidence of potential fraud and says it may be time to change KTAP's rules.
If we've got reports like this, I do believe that there should be a random spot check.
We also took the information to Frankfort.
So I think there's various and sundry reasons why people go places.
Patricia Wilson runs the Department for Community-Based Services, which oversees KTAP. She pointed out the withdrawals we found may raise some eyebrows, but they represent a tiny fraction of the $99 million paid out by KTAP every year. And investigating each withdrawal comes with its own problems.
But then you would also be asking for government to look into the very, very depths of how individuals spend some rather small amounts of money.
But Representative Hausman says at a time of tight budgets, no amount is too small.
If someone makes a transaction at a casino in Evansville, if they make a transaction at a beach in Florida or in Hawaii, they need to be making a count for that, or they need to be removed from the program.
Well, it's important to note that while we found withdrawals at some very popular vacation spots, we also found stuff at, say, hospitals and things like that, children's hospitals for that. Now, we don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, so just to give you an idea of how KTAP works, the average payment is just $225 a month, and right now there are about 24,000 cases in Kentucky. That's down about 50% since 1998, and there is that 5-year lifetime limit. So if you'd like to see the strict requirements to qualify for KTAP, we've got that link on our web channel, WPSTLocal6.com.
And I looked at those requirements, and, you know, for a single parent with a kid, can't make more than $750 a month. How do you go to Hawaii on that?
Right, that's the question, because you have to be destitute to qualify for this program. But one thing is, there's a lot of cases of, say, grandparents caring for the children, and so it's actually the child that qualifies, and so the grandparent or the relative may be the one who's taking them to these places. The question is, should that money be going somewhere else?
To Hawaii.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. A recent Local 6 investigation found suspicious withdrawals by people on Kentucky's welfare program called Kentucky Transitional Assistance Program, or KTAP. Well, Scott continued looking into this, and you found some other issues with KTAP, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, Jennifer, I was pretty surprised to find withdrawals of taxpayer money inside casinos at popular vacation spots like Hawaii, Florida, even the Virgin Islands. But I took a closer look at these records and also found something else taxpayers should know about: banks cashing in on your money that's supposed to be earmarked for our poorest citizens to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
They are everywhere. ATMs. We rely on them for our cash 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But for anyone on Kentucky's Transitional Assistance Program, or KTAP, they are more than a convenience.
The average monthly KTAP payment is about $225. So if you go to a grocery store and use this as a debit card, it's free of the service charge. But use this at an ATM, and it's a very different story.
And a closer look at the ATM transactions of KTAP recipients found banks are quite literally cashing in on those fees, some as much as $6 per withdrawal.
I was in shock. I really was.
Patty Newman teaches a financial literacy class required for people on KTAP.
By the time we get our checks, it's gone.
Well, I would think the majority of them probably doesn't realize how much they're spending of their money just in bank fees.
And just how much? We checked a 12-month period dating back to last year and found KTAP recipients withdrew $55 million, and about 2/3 of those withdrawals included an average fee of $2.30, totaling more than $567,000.
It's very upsetting that, you know, they charge that type of fee.
We took Patty's concerns to Frankfurt.
You know, we have no authority to regulate what the surcharge is by the owner of an ATM. That is the owner of the ATM's prerogative.
Patricia Wilson runs the Department for Community-Based Services. She points out KTAP debit cards allow one free withdrawal per month. But these records show for many people that one withdrawal simply isn't enough.
Increase your income so you'll have more money to budget.
As for Patty Newman, she says she's adding ATM fee awareness to her curriculum.
And a lot of them, you know, it's just a cycle. They don't know any better. No one's ever taught them any better.
And not knowing can get very expensive.
Well, the state does hand out a pamphlet which does explain the debit card system and the potential for these ATM fees, along with the fact that purchases with the debit card are free. But there's something else I found out while investigating this story. I got a number of complaints from excessive bank fees from people who get their child support payments through the state. Now, here's the problem. The bank, JPMorgan Chase, has the contract with the state to disperse that money. But I want to show you something. Check this out. This map shows the Chase ATM locations in our area. Notice the closest one to West Kentucky are Carbondale and Owensboro. I brought this up to the people with Chase. They told me withdrawals from ATMs at any Speedway locations, as well as an ATM with the Visa logo, should also be free of charge. So be aware of that. I also talked to Chase Bank and the Kentucky Bankers Association about these KTAP ATM fees. They had no comment.